Hello, I'm Carl Bratcher from Chaparral Motorsports, and I have just toasted these Desert HT tires on my 1190 Adventure R. These Motoz Desert HTs have been phenomenal tires. They've been on my bike for 5 months, and I've gotten over 4,300 miles on them. As you can see in the images here, they've been on the bike for 5 months, and they were installed at, 4,800 miles, and now we've got 9,300 miles, so that's super mileage out of a super aggressive 90 dirt, 10% street tire. They've been great tires. Now, if you want a comparison to what they look like brand new, here's the brand new set, and here's the set with just over 4,000 miles on them. Now, if I was gonna be doing a super epic ride, I probably would have taken them off about 3,800 to 4,000, but I've just been commuting back and forth for the last week and a half or so, so it was okay to just burn them up a little bit more on the highway. So I'll put some pictures in here so you can take a look at what these look like as the lifespan kind of trickled down, if you will, over the months. They've been phenomenal. Now it's time to put new rubber on. So here we have the array of the most aggressive of the Motoz tires for the adventure rider. Now 5 months ago when we launched the video for the Tubeless Desert HT tire for the big bikes, this was a brand new tire, just arrived in the USA. It was fun to try. Now I do ride my 1190 Adventure R to work every day. I play really hard on the weekends, and that's where these things get chewed up by rocks and sand and all kinds of fun stuff. But I do commute, put a lot of miles on the highway, and that's why I really wanted to go back to the Tractionator Adventure Tire. But today I have something brand new for you. It's called the RallZ tire from Motoz, and that's this tire right here. So the Desert HT is a 90% dirt, 10% street tire. The Tractionator Adventure Tire is going to be a 75% dirt and 25% street. And if you were to put the MK2 tire on, that takes it to more of the 80-20. Well, Motoz wanted to come out with a tire in between these two, and that's going to be the RallZ tire, and that's what you see right here. It's a bit different than the Adventure Tire, even though it has some of the same characteristics. 75-25, 80-20, it sounds like we're splitting hairs, but there really is a specific consumer or segment of the marketplace for each of these three tires. This is the guy who's hitting off-road most all the time, and he really wants the most aggressive tire he can possibly put on his bike. The Tractionator Adventure Tire is going to be for the guy who does a lot of highway slabbing. This tire actually sounds like a street tire when you're rolling down the street. There's not much road noise. It feels really, really smooth, especially after coming off something like a Karoo 3 or a TKC80. This tire feels really, really good on the road. Now, it's still going to be uber aggressive. I've ridden so many of our California OHV double black diamond trails on this on my 950 Super Enduro, and it's a really good performing tire. But they wanted something that was a little bit more aggressive than this and a little bit more pavement savvy than the Desert HT. And that's where the RallZ tire comes into play. Now when it comes to the Adventure Tire, which is going to be the more street-oriented tire out of this group, even though it's a very aggressive off-road tire, you're going to see a gap here of about 3/4 of an inch. As we move closer down the range now to the more dirt-oriented tire that's still great for street, we're looking at exactly an inch. And then we get to the Desert HT, which is the more dirt-oriented tire. We're looking at 1.5 inches between these lugs. It's that spacing between these lugs that's going to give you that ultimate dig into the dirt or grab onto the rock traction to be able to get the best forward momentum you can get while out there riding off-road. Another thing you'll see that they've done is the original Adventure Tire was a big block, small block, big block. There wasn't any variation side to side. On the RallZ tire, what they wanted to do was provide a little bit more variation so that each lug will be able to hit a different piece of terrain as it comes around. Another tread pattern difference that you're going to notice is you had the 2 large blocks and 1 smaller block here on the side. Now all 3 of these blocks are tied together, which gives this tire great stability on road. They brought this distance here together a little bit. They then created a tie between each of those blocks, which makes this block essentially feel like a solid piece of rubber at its base, while the top with these large sipes in the center give it room to move around on the road to give you that perfect traction. Moving on over the Desert HT, you can see that these look like standalone blocks on the top, but they are also tied together at the bottom. That's going to give you the most off-road bite that you can possibly get out of this tire while allowing it to maintain its stability at the bottom. As you can see up here, those side lugs do a great job at continuing to bite as the tire wears down. So even as worn out as this tire is, I never had a feeling of a loss of traction. Another feature that's different is going to be the rubber compound. The Desert HT is 100% natural rubber. Now the material that's going to be different from the Rally tire than the Adventure tire is they've added silica to this tire. So silica has been known to repel water. So in muddy or wet situations, this tire is going to be more like water or mud phobic, if you will, giving you better traction in wet terrain. Now let's talk front tires, starting at the most aggressive and moving our way towards the more streetable tires. The Desert HT tire here, what you're going to notice is we have individual lugs. These are not tied together. It's going to be very similar to a true knobby that you'd find on any dirt motorcycle tire. So the only knob on this Desert HT that's actually tied together at the very, very bottom is this center knob. Why? For braking. What happens with this is at the very base, when you hit the brakes, these are going to squirm a little bit, but because they're tied together, they're going to perform much, much better than if they were actual separate knobs. But here on the top, because they have that large sipe down the center, you're going to find that these are going to act off-road like an individual knobby. So really neat. Now right now I'm going to go ahead and skip the Rally tire, even though it's the next tire in the mix, and jump over to the Adventure tire. This is the original Adventure tire. This is the tire that everyone knows or thinks about when you think about a Tractionator Adventure front tire. This center lug is going to have a full split and then a half split, and those are going to alternate. It's going to give you really good feel. Now, these are tied together down here at the base on the side lugs, and that's going to give your really large, heavy bike more stability when completely leaned over in the corner. Now, this is the 75-25 tire. Now, if you want to get to the 80-20, you want to get a little bit more aggressive, this is the MK2 tire that they came out with. Supposedly, the MK2 tire has very similar wear characteristics to the original Adventure tire, but it is significantly more aggressive. As we can see here, the distance between these lugs here is, well, depending on where we put this tape measure, about an inch between, whereas the Adventure tire, you're looking at 3/4 of an inch. So that distance in the tread is going to give you significantly more bite than the traditional Adventure tire. Now warning, this tire is going to be a little bit louder on the pavement than this one because that gap is larger. It's going to grab more air and have more of an angle when it hits the ground. But that's going to be the case with any knobby tire such as this. Now let's move over to the Rally tire and see what's different there. First impression, this tire looks really, really good. You've got these three what look like standalone knobs, but they are all connected here at the base. Moving over to the side, this knob is connected to these two at the base, and these two are interconnected as well. Take a look here at the side profile. This is very unique. I haven't seen this on any other street-oriented dirt tires to date. What they've done over here is this is actually one solid knob here at the base. They've kind of joined them together and then put a larger space between these two. This should work really, really well in very muddy, sticky off-road situations, and this should perform really well on road. To date, I have no experience with that, as it is a brand new tire that will get mounted on these rims later today, and then we'll come back and give you the full detailed breakdown of how this tire handled in comparison to the Desert HT and the Tractionator Adventure. Now at first look, I was kind of curious about the amount of space between these lugs and kind of wondered if they were going to squirm around a bit. They feel extremely stable. It's going to be very interesting to see how this tire performs on road on the big bike. But from initial looks at the tread pattern, it looks like this tire is going to exceed our expectations as far as what we've seen so far from this line of off-road tires. In my preliminary handling of these tires and getting everything set up, it felt like the tread compound on this one here was softer than the other two. But we took a durometer, we poked it into each of these tires, and they all read right around 73, 74 on the durometer meter. So even though these rubbers do have a different mixture of makeup, they still are the same hardness according to the durometer. So what can you expect as far as mileage goes from these tires? As I just explained, I have just over 4,000 miles on the Desert HTs. I currently have the Adventure tire mounted on my 950 Super Enduro. That's these two right here. And I have over 6,000 miles on that set of tires. I'm really curious to see how this Rally tire compares to those two, but only time will tell. So make sure you tune back in 3 or 4 months and we'll find out exactly just how these Rally tires performed out there in the real world. And that's it, the most aggressive Adventure tires from Motoz. Now this is an Australian company. They do a phenomenal job at giving us tires that perform better than any in this particular segment. There are some out there that do well in one aspect or the other, but as far as being a really good street tire and dirt tire at the same time, Motoz has shown us that they have a winning combination. If you're curious about how the Desert HT tubeless tire held up while I had it on my bike, please take a look at that follow-up video. We're gonna dive in deep on exactly how this tire handled in various terrains. And if you found anything in this video helpful, please give us a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you can be notified when the next videos are released. I'm Kyle Bradshaw from Chaparral Motorsports. Thank you so much for tuning in. Until next time, take care and ride safe.